Hello, this is Deacon Chris, and I wanted to share my homily from this last Sunday, July 10th, 2022. I think it's the 15th Sunday, was the 15th Sunday of Ordinary Time. The readings are, first of all, the parable of the Good Samaritan, which is in Luke chapter 10, and then this great hymn from Colossians chapter 1, and then a very famous and beautiful reading from Deuteronomy in chapter 30. You can find the exact passages on my website. I call this homily the sweetness. I've always struggled with the parable of the Good Samaritan. Partly it's because the message of the parable seems so obvious to me. We're supposed to stop and help other people. We're supposed to help other people. It's obvious, of course. What more is there to say? We should just do it. The real problem, though, is that I don't want to do it. I don't want to stop and help. I'm too sunk into myself most of the time. I'm too wrapped up in my own problems. I don't have enough compassion. And so when I see a problem, I want to keep walking. I just want to avoid it if I can. I resist the parable because I'm the Levite, because I'm the priest. Or another way to think about it is that I'm the good. I'm the not the Good Samaritan, but the man who has been robbed and left by the side of the road. The man the Samaritan helps. And I think in a way we all are. Anxiety has beaten us up. Struggle and work and the long, hard days have robbed us in a way of our energy and our capacity. Everything we read in the news, everything we can see when we look inside of ourselves, it just all makes us feel stranded and abandoned. So we're not the Good Samaritan. We need the Good Samaritan. And we just have to admit this. We just have to face this. Because it's God who works through us. It's Christ who inspires us with his love. We don't have enough love. We don't have enough compassion. He has to give it to us. We can only love God with all our heart and all our mind and all our soul if God gives us the gift of loving him. We can only love our neighbors as ourselves if God gives us the gift of that love. We can only love ourselves if God gives us the gift of that love. Last week, Barb and I spent a day on the Oregon coast. That evening, we went out to a nice restaurant for dinner. It was very crowded, so they had to seat us at the bar. And as we sat there on the stools, we watched the bartender, a young woman, running back and forth trying to serve everybody. There was a man at the bar too, in his 70s or 80s, sitting by himself a little further down from us. After a while, the bartender stopped for a second and asked how he was doing. And he said, "This is the anniversary of my wife's death. She died 2 years ago today, and this was her favorite place." Then this busy young woman, this harried, overworked bartender, she stopped and she stood there and she talked to that lonely man. She listened to him. She didn't say anything profound. She wasn't a Levite. She wasn't a priest. She wasn't a deacon, although in a way she really was a deacon. She looked at him And she stopped and she listened. And I thought, go and do likewise. Go and do likewise. And for a moment, the bartender's kindness and the old man's grief and the mystery of death and all the stories and the sadness in that crowded place, it all felt like grace. The Spirit was there, moving in others and moving in me. And it was a clear, warm summer evening, and the sun was setting into the ocean, and the waves were coming in and going out, and the love was in me too. The kindness was in me. Christ was in me. And at least for a moment, I was no longer trapped. I was no longer caved in on myself. I was free. I was free to love others. My youngest brother, Ted, has been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, and he's taking it really seriously. He's reading a lot about it, and he's managing his diet. He's amazed at how addictive sugar is. He's amazed at how his mind is cleared now that he stopped putting all those sugars into his body. The other day, he was sitting at his computer. He works from home, and he looked out the window, and he saw a hummingbird hovering in his flowers. And the thought came into his mind. It just came into his mind. There's the sweetness. There's the sweetness. And that thought, I'm sure, came from Christ. That was Christ. All things were made through him, and all things were made for him. Hummingbirds and oceans and bartenders and you and me. All things continue in being in him. He is not far away. He is not up in the sky. He is here in every moment. And in that moment, he broke through to my brother. My brother could feel it. And when my brother called and told me about this, when he shared this moment with me, Christ broke through to me again. The word is not far away. The parables are all around us. The word is in our hearts and in our minds, in our glucose levels, in the cells of our bodies. I take the scholar of the law at the beginning of the parable as a symbol of those who think faith is just a matter of ideas, of being able to repeat back abstract theological principles, and not a question of our own lived experience, of what actually happens in our lives. And maybe the Levite and the priest have the same problem. They're not just hypocrites, they're intellectuals, as in a sense we all are when we argue and fight and hit each other over the head with the catechism. I mean, that's a big irony, because in the end, what the catechism keeps saying again and again is that this is a mystery. Christ is a mystery. Christ is love. And that love is given, not earned. It's beyond us. When people talk to me about becoming Catholic or unbecoming Catholic, they usually want to talk about doctrines they can't accept or do. But that's not it. That's putting the cart before the horse. The secondary role of doctrine is vital to understanding biblical religion, George Dennis O'Brien says. O'Brien is a Catholic thinker I admire. this is the rest of that passage from O'Brien. What leads the religious believer is not a statement of belief, a dogma, but some lived actuality. We don't start with theological doctrine and then instance reality. We start with the given reality and then try to understand what there is about it that the theologians may be pointing to. And this is the last line of that passage. When the angels appeared over the stable in Bethlehem, they did not say, "Behold, I have brought you a topic for discussion." I love that last line. Now, I want to be careful here. I love dogma. I think dogma gets bad press. I think dogma is tremendously important. I just think it comes second. Even more important is what the dogma is about. And charity is a way of knowing concretely. Whatever we do for the least of these, Jesus says, we do for him. I think Jesus tells the scholar to go and actually do something, not just because it's good for other people, but because it's good for him. Because in helping someone else, he will know God in a way he never could in the abstract. He will touch him. He will touch his skin. He will feel his breath. When the Jesuit poet Gerard Manley Hopkins was asked how we can better understand the doctrines of the church, he said, "Give alms." When the angels appeared over the bar as the waves were coming in, when the angels appeared outside my brother's window, hovering at the flowers, they were saying, "Behold, all things continue in being in him, and he is present in all things. He is the light, and the light is not overcome by the darkness." They were saying, "This is love. Not that you loved me, but that I loved you first." They were saying, "You are not abandoned. You are not alone. However dark the world seems, and however overwhelming, I am here. I am with you. Open your eyes. Stop. Open your eyes. Listen. And then go out into the world. Go out into the world and serve.